श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः श्री परमगुरुभ्यो नमः श्रीमदानंद तीर्थ भगवत्पादाचार्यभ्यो नमः हरि ओम श्री व्यासराजो विजयते निखिल गुण निकायं नित्य निर्धूतहेयं शुभतममतिमेयं शुद्ध सौख्यप्युपायं सकल निगमगेयं सर्वशब्दाभिधेयं नवजलधरकायं नौमि लक्ष्मी सहायं विघ्नौघवारणं सत्याशेष विश्वस्य कारणं करुणासिन्धु मानन्दतीर्थबन्धुं हरिं भजे अभ्रमं भङ्गरहितमजडं विमलं सदा आनन्दतीर्थमतुलं भजे तापत्रयापहं चित्रैपदैश्च गम्भीरैर्वाक्यैर्मानैरखण्डितैः गुरुभावं व्यञ्जयन्ती भातिश्री जयतीर्थवाक् समुत्सार्य तमस्तोमं सन्मार्गं सम्प्रकाश्य च सदा विष्णुपदासक्तं सेवे ब्रह्मण्य भास्करं ज्ञानवैराग्यभक्त्यादि कल्याणगुणशालिनः लक्ष्मीनारायणमुनिन् वन्दे विद्यागुरून् मम श्रीमद्दशात्तदुग्धाब्धिं धीमन्दरमहीभृता आमत्योद्ध्रियते न्यायामृतं विभदतृप्तये विक्षिप्तसङ्ग्रहात् क्वापि क्वाप्युक्तस्योपपादनात् अनुक्तकथनात् क्वापि सफलोऽयं श्रमो मम अर्थकल्पितकल्पोऽयं प्रत्यर्थिगतकेसरी व्यासतीर्थगुरुर्भूयात् अस्मदिष्टार्थसिद्धये भक्तानां मानसां भोजभानवे कामधेनवे भजतां कल्पतरवे श्री जयीन्द्रगुरवे नमः श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम द न्यायामृता of Sri Vyastirtha is a classic hailed as one among the Vyasatrayas, the other two being the Tatparya Chandrika and the Tarkatandava. Together, all the three are collectively called as the Vyasatraya, the Nyayamrita, the Tatparya Chandrika, and the Tarkatandava. These three serve as the indomitable force to protect the Dvaita school of philosophy. In fact, Appaya Dikshita himself acknowledges the greatness of these three works. The Vyasatrayas of Sri Vyastirtha are the three layers of protection for the Dvaita school of thought. This has been hailed by even the antagonistic schools as well. The Nyayamrita is a great work which reviews the Advaita school of thought in detail. There are hundreds of prakaranas or sections in the Nyayamrita which examine each and every point of the Advaita school of thought. The Nyayamrita saw many commentaries on it. There are more than 5 commentaries which have been published, and among them the Amoda of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha is one of the authoritative commentaries on the Nyayamrita. When we look at the contribution of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha to the Dvaita school of thought and as well as the commentarial tradition of the Nyayamrita, we can see the genius of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha rampant throughout his writings. In fact, Sri Vijayendra Tirtha has offered us more than 104 works which are classics by itself in Indian philosophy, and all of them try to present and argue the unflinching authoritativeness of the Dvaita school of thought. The Amoda is not the only commentary that is being credited in the traditional circles, but there are 2 other commentaries on the Nyayamrita by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha himself. Sri Vijayendra Tirtha's commentaries are 3 in number on the Nyayamrita. They are traditionally acclaimed as the Lagva Moda, Madhyama Moda and Gurva Moda. However, the Lagva Moda is the only work which has been published right now. The Madhyama Moda and Gurva Moda are yet to be procured and published. However, there are very direct references there were 3 commentaries by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha himself on the Nyayamrita. In fact, Sri Raghavendra Tirtha himself acknowledges that the Nyayamrita has been commented by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha in a very genius way, and there is no need for any fresh commentary by myself is the remark of Sri Raghavendra Tirtha himself. And that is exactly why we don't have a direct sub-commentary on the Nyayamrita by Sri Raghavendra Tirtha. So, the greatness of the Lagva Moda, Madhyama Moda and Gurva Moda can be seen in this. Another notable feature of the Lagva Moda on the Nyayamrita is that Sri Vijayendra Tirtha had the benefit of a direct instruction from Sri Vyastirtha himself, a direct inculcation from the author of the Nyayamrita himself on the text. This makes the commentary very near in time to the original work as well as being authoritative and faithful to the original work. The other commentaries are also equally faithful, no doubt, but in time, in chronological importance, the Lagva Moda, Madhyama Moda and the Gurva Moda are very much near to the Nyayamrita chronologically and in faithfulness as well. And Um, it should be noted that during the time of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha, the Advaita Siddhi as a rejoinder or a response to Nyayamrita had already come into place. If we carefully look at the history, the time of Sri Vyastirtha is 1460 to 1539 AD, and Sri Madhusudan Saraswati's time is from 1540, that is 1 year after the Vrindavana Pravesha of Sri Vyastirtha, till 1640 as some have it, or 1647 as some others have it. The time of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha is from 1514 to 1592 AD. That makes him as a senior contemporary of Sri Madhusudan Saraswati. So Sri Madhusudan Saraswati's work, Advaita Siddhi, was probably seen by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha, not by Sri Vyastirtha, by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha, and there is very likelihood that it would have evolved a response from Vijayendra Tirtha, because when we look at the history, Sri Vijayendra Tirtha had been contributing great works as response to Appai Dikshita, Bhatto Dikshita, and many other scholars who were trying to make a refutation of the Dvaita school. So it is very, very likely that Sri Vijayendra Tirtha must have offered a counter refutation to Advaita Siddhi in his Amodas. So when we look at Laghu Amoda, we can see certain criticisms of the Advaita Siddhi indirectly here and there and very scantily. But more likely, the criticism of Advaita Siddhi verbatim must have taken place either in Madhyama Moda or Gurva Moda. So time alone will decide when we procure the text and publish that how the direct criticism have been leveled against the Advaita Siddhi in the Madhyama Moda and the Gurva Moda. All other commentators like Sri Ramacharya, Vyasa Ramacharya, Sri Ananda Bhattaraka Pandurangi, Sri Srinivasa Tirthacharya, and all others are later commentators on the Nyayamrita. Sri Vyasa Ramacharya's time is from 1550 to 1620 AD, and Sri Ananda Bhattaraka Pandurangi's time is 1530 to 1600 AD, and Sri Srinivasa Tirtha's time is from 1590 to 1640 AD. That makes the Amoda of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha as a very early commentary on the Nyayamrita of Sri Vyastirtha. When we look at the contribution of the Laghu Amoda, that is the only work that is available right now in the published way. So if we try to look at the contribution of the Laghu Amoda to the understanding and the advancement of the arguments of Sri Nyayamrita, it is quite immense. It is very, it's almost an impossible task to fully justify and say this is the contribution, in this case the amount of contribution to Nyayamrita, because it is limitless. Each and every salient feature of the Nyayamrita has been expounded in a very great way by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha in the Laghu Amoda itself. Leaving the Madhyama Amoda and Gurva Amoda, the Laghu Amoda itself contributes so much to the Nyayamrita. So I would like to highlight certain contributions of the Laghu Amoda on the Nyayamrita of the great Sri Vyasa Tirtha. So the edition that is being used by me in pointing out this great contribution of the Laghu Amoda is the Nyayamrita with the commentary of Laghu Amoda of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha, published by the Brindavanam Office, Mantralayam, Kurnool District, Andhra Pradesh. The first edition of 1000 copies, January 1991, under the editorship of the chief editorship of Professor M.S. Ranganathachar, and by the sub-editor Pandita Bhushanam, Professor S.V. Bhimamat. So this edition is being used, and I shall point out the salient features of the Laghu Amoda at relevant places within the time framework. And I should also have a disclaimer right here that the presentation would be in a semi-technical way, since the many other technical points are much beyond the scope of the English presentation that is being aimed here. So the complete dilution is not possible. Hence, a semi-technical presentation of the salient features of some of the points of the Laghu Amoda shall be done here. The great work Nyayamrita begins with an invocatory works, Nikhila Guna Nikayam, Nitya Nirdhuta Heyam, Shubhatama Matimeyam, Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam, Sakala Nigamageyam, Sarva Shabdabhidheyam, Navajaladharakayam, Naumi Lakshmi Sahayam. Here, the salutations is being offered to Lord Rama or Krishna in keeping with the spirit of the Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras comprises of 4 adhyayas or 4 chapters, namely the Samanvaya Adhyaya, Avirodha Adhyaya, Sadhana Adhyaya, and Phaladhyaya. All the 4 chapters have been summarized by the first verse by Sri Vyastirtha. By the phrasing of Nikhila Guna Nikayam, Lord Hari is being praised as the embodiment of all good qualities. So that is the spirit of the Samanvaya Adhyaya, which tries to make a Samanvaya or the application of all the words to Lord Brahman, Parabrahman, thereby the Pravritti Nimitta Dharmas, the connotative meaning of those words which are nothing but the good qualities are ascribed to, are being connected to Lord Brahman. Nitya Nirduta Hiyam is the phrase which tries to summarize the Avirodha Dhyaya, which clearly proves that there are no defects in the Parabrahman. Shubhatama Matimeyam is the third phrase which summarizes the third Adhyaya or the Sadhana Dhyaya, showing that the aspirant who is endowed with the Shravana, hearing of the Shastras, Manana, contemplation and Nidhyasana, deep meditation, would only acquire the knowledge of Parabrahman. The fourth phrase is being taken up, Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam. Lord Hari is the one who fetches us the liberation, which is our innate blissful nature, and there are no blemishes in that innate blissful nature. This is the culmination of the Brahma Sutras. Commenting on this particular phrase of Sri Vyastirtha, Sri Vijayendra Tirtha points out that there are many deep inner meanings in the phraseology as Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam. When the phrase of Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam is being used, we can note that there are many inner deep philosophical meanings inherent in it. In page number 4 of the Lagva Moda, Sri Vijayendra Tirtha remarks, Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam iti Sukhameva Saukyam Swarte Shan Pratyaha Tasya Shuddhatvam Santatva Satishayatva Dukkha Sambindhatva Rahityam Shuddhasya Saukyasya Aptau Praptau Upayam Ityartaha. So, when Sri Vyastirtha uses the phrase Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam, the pure bliss is being stated here. Lord Hari is the means to manifest the pure bliss that is inherent within the soul. Why do we name it as pure bliss? This point is being taken up by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha here. Sri Vyastirtha's genius lies here in using the word Shuddha Saukya. So Sri Vijayendra Tirtha points out the phrase of the wording of Shuddha Saukya has many meanings. The word Shuddha as a adjective to Saukya serves many purposes. For example, Saukya refers to happiness. The Shuddhatva or the purity in that bliss refers to not being Santa. The bliss that is manifested in the state of liberation is not something that is gained. That it is not something which is produced, but it was there in the beginningless time. However, it is only manifested in the state of liberation. And at the same time, that bliss is ever flowing. It doesn't stop. It is overwhelming. There is no limit to that bliss in accordance with the capacity of the soul. At the same time, it is bereft of any tint or sorrow or shadow of sorrow. All the happiness that we see in this world have the tint of sorrow or the shadow of sorrow within it. But however, the blissful nature that gets manifested in the state of liberation has no tint or shadow within it. So, by the wording of Shuddha Saukya, Sri Vyastirtha intends to say all this, and Sri Vijayendra Tirtha brings all these into light. By the word Shuddha, we can understand that the bliss is without beginning, it is overwhelming, and at the same time, it is limitless and without the shadow of any sorrow. That has to be understood here. And at the same time, that bliss is the natural bliss of the Atman. It is not something which is procured anew, but it is something which was already inherent in the soul, but which was uncovered or manifested by the grace of Lord. So we can see, in commenting on the very first verse of Sri Vyastirtha, Sri Vijayendra Tirtha brings out each and every detail of Sri Vyastirtha's writings. So it gives us a hint that the Amoda will give us all the salient features of the Nyayamrita in its commentary. So whenever anybody reads the Nyayamrita directly as Shuddha Saukyaptyupayam, naturally there would be a question, why does the word Shuddha is being used here? So Sri Vijayendra Tirtha points out that it has got many meanings. The phrases and the wordings of Sri Vyastirtha have many meanings, and this has been pointed out in the very first invocatory verse by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha. Moving further, we find all other prakaranas or sections highly technical in nature. So to present them, it would be a very difficult and jargonistic task. Hence, a semi-technical approach has been adopted here. The next section of the Nyayamrita begins with Vipratipatti Vichara. That is, whether is it a necessity to point out the controversy between the debaters in the beginning of the debate. traditionally speaking, according to the school of Nyaya, as the tradition of the Nyaya goes, all arguments begin with the presentation of the two debaters. The viewpoint of the two debaters would be pointed out in contrast, and later the debate would begin. But however, Sri Vyastirtha later questions whether this serves as a rule or not. This doesn't serve as a rule, because the moment the argument starts, one is able to understand by the very inference, by the proposing of the inference, that the debater on the right side and left side are arguing in two different contrasting positions, and the position will also be noted. So there is no necessity for pointing out the contrasting debate as contrasting views in toto as a rule at the beginning of the debate. There is no rule as such. This has been pointed out later. However, while presenting the point of contrast, Sri Vyastirtha in the Vripatipatti Vichara points out the difference between the Advaita school and the Dvaita school on the nature of the world. Brahma Pramanyena va saprakarena va abhadyatve sati asadvilakshanatve sati brahmanyat pratipannopado traikalika nisheda pratiyogi nama. So the controversy is in this way. Sri Vyastirtha points out the world is named as something that is different from Brahman, something that is different from null or asat or void, and it is also different from that which is not sublated by anything other than the knowledge of Brahman. Here we should note that the world is indeed negated according to the school of Advaita. It is sublated. Whenever the knowledge of Brahman dawns upon us, the world would be sublated according to the school of Advaita. However, the world is not sublated by any other knowledge except the knowledge of the Brahman. So this is the position. While using this particular viewpoint, Sri Vyastirtha uses the phrase Brahma Pramanyena Abhadyatve Sati Asadlakshanatve Brahmanyat. He uses the phrase Brahma Pramanyena Abhadyatve. So the natural question would be, why does the word Prama find a place here? Why is the word Gnana not used? It could have been used as Brahma Gnana Nyena Abhadyatvam. Why does Vyastirtha use the word Prama and not the word Gnana? Sri Vijayendra clarifies this point in page number 9 of the Laghva Moda as follows. Nacha atra prameti vyartham pratibhasika rasatadehe nedam rastam ityadina brahmagnananyenaiva badyataya tasya pakshatva prasakya tadamshe siddhasaranatvasyaiva apraptehe iti vachyam sarva pratyaya vedye cha brahmarupe vyavastita iti parena pratyavatrasya brahmagnanatva abhyavagamena नेदम रजतम इत्यादि बाधक ज्ञानस्यापि ब्रह्मज्ञानत्वेन शुक्तिरूप्यादेरपि तदन्य दण्डाद्यनिवर्त्यत्वेन प्रसक्त पक्षत्व निवृत्त्यर्थम प्रमेत्यस्य आवश्यकत्वात्. These two sentences are rampant with rich dialectical skills of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha. The word Prama has been used by Sri Vyastirtha and it has got a purpose. If at all the phrase was used as Brahma Gnananyena Abhadyatvam, the world is something that is not sublated by anything other than the cognition or knowledge of Brahman, not necessarily the Prama or the right knowledge of Brahman. If at all this has been used, there would have been many technical problems even according to Advaita. Because even according to Advaita, as the famous shloka of the Karika of Mandana Mishra goes, Sarva Pratyaya Vedyecha Brahma Rupe Vyavastite is the first half of the Karika. According to this view, the knowledge which we get even in the mundane world is in fact the knowledge of Brahman. When we say Iyam Shuktihi, this is the shell. Even this knowledge is the knowledge of Brahman, technically according to Advaita. Because when we say this is the shell, we perceive the Adhisthana or the substratum Brahman that is being there and upon which the shell is being superimposed. In all cases of superimposition, the superimposed thing doesn't appear as it is. It always appears in keeping with the substratum, together with the substratum. So Brahman, who is the substratum for the superimposed world, is evident in all knowledge. Therefore, even the knowledge Iyam Shukti, this is the shell, is also in fact indirectly the knowledge of Brahman. So if we say the world is not sublated by anything other than the knowledge of Brahman, then the world would also include the Shukti Rajata, the superimposed silver on the shell, because even that superimposed silver on the shell is negated by the knowledge this is the shell, and that knowledge this is the shell is also the knowledge of Brahman, as we saw earlier. So therefore even the superimposed silver is not sublated by anything other than the knowledge of Brahman. It is indeed negated by the knowledge of Brahman, this is shell. So therefore it would have got included in the world which is the paksha or the locus of the present inference. That is not which is desired, because if the shell, the superimposed silver on the shell is being included, it would be meaningless to prove non-reality there, because it is already established. The whole world knows that the superimposed silver on the shell is non-real. There is no necessity to prove it. So therefore that has to be worded. It would give room to siddha sadhamata, proving already that is being proved. It's a fallacy. So to ward off this fallacy, Sri Vyasatirtha has carefully used the word prama and not gnana. It is Brahma prama and not Brahma gnana. So what is the difference? The difference lies here. All the mundane knowledge may be the knowledge of Brahman according to the Advaita Karika. Sarva Prasthe Veteja Brahma Rupevasya. However, that is not the Brahma Prama. By the word Brahma Prama, we have to understand the pristine knowledge of Brahman and not the knowledge of the something which is superimposed on the Brahman. The shell is also superimposed on Brahman, and Brahman is seen as the Adhisthana or the locus or substratum of the superimposed shell there. But however, when we say Prama, it is not mere knowledge of Brahman, but it is the Prama or the right knowledge of Brahman which arises out of the hearing of the Akhandarthanishta Vedanta Vakyas, like Tattvamasi. So therefore, the knowledge this is shell and this is Swarup should not be taken. The knowledge of the Nirguna Nirakara Brahman has to be taken. And that which is not sublated by anything other than this true knowledge of Brahman is the world only. It is not the superimposed silver on the shell. Therefore, that cannot be entertained. The superimposed silver on the shell cannot be entertained, and there is no scope for the Siddha Sadvata fallacy. And this is the keen note. This is the very deep understanding of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha as we see in the commentary Lagvamoda. The next section of Nyayamrita collectively presents the syllogisms or inferences of the Advaita school of thought to prove the non-reality of the world. While pointing out these syllogisms, the famous syllogism of Vimatam Mithya Drishyatvat Jadatvat Parichinnatvat Shuktirashtavat has been taken up as per Ananda Bodha. However, there is one more unique syllogism pointed out by Chitsuka in the Tattva Pradipika. The syllogism runs as follows. Ayam pataha etat tantadishta atyantabhava pratiyogi patatvat amshitvat patantaravatu is the very unique syllogism of Chitsuka. In this, Chitsuka tries to point out that the cloth which is seen by us in front of us actually doesn't exist even in the place in which it is seen. We can say the Atyanta Bhava or the total negation of the cloth exists in the place in which it is seen. So the cloth is in one way the counter entity, Pratiyogi, to the absolute negation, Atyanta Bhava, in the very place in which it is seen to exist. And the Hetus are given as Patatva and Amshitva because it is Pata, because it is a cloth and it is also having parts, just like the other cloth. Just like the other cloth doesn't exist in this place, even this cloth doesn't exist in this place. This is the intention of the syllogism of Chitsuka. This particular unique syllogism is being examined later. While pointing out this syllogism, the Lagvamoda in page number 16 tries to point out why exactly the word Atyanta Bhava has been used here. The syllogism is Ayam Pataha, this cloth, Etat Tantvishta Atyanta Bhava Pratiyogi is the counter entity for the absolute negation which is there in this very threads. Patatvat Amshitva, because it's a pot and because it's a cloth and it's also having the parts, just like the other cloth. Here, the word Atyanta Bhava has been used, total negation or absolute negation. But what is the necessity to use this word? So Sri Vijayendra Tirtha points out, Atyanta Padam Abhavantara Pratiyogitvamadaya Siddha Sadhanadi Varanaya. The word Atyanta Bhava has been used here. Not just Abhava, it is Atyanta Bhava or absolute negation. Why is this being used? Because if the syllogism had been just as Ayam pataha etattantanishta abhava pratyogi padatadamshita panatarato. This would have been meaningless because it would have been not very powerful argument at all, because by the word abhava we could have taken the preceding abhava or the negation called as pragabhava. We could have taken the destruction or pradvamsa bhava, or we could have also taken bheda or difference, which is anyonya bhava. So what is the problem with taking all these abhavas or negations? There is a technical problem. Even according to our common sense, when we say the cloth which is seen in the thread is also the counter entity for some abhava, like the preceding negation or the destruction, it is very well understood, because before its creation the cloth was not existed in the thread. So therefore the prior negation could have been there, and it could have been the counter entity for the prior negation. And at the same time, after the destruction, when we loosely take out the threads, when we separate the threads, there is no more cloth. So even then the destruction of the cloth takes place. So even then the cloth could have been the counter entity for the negation. So even when we take the anyonya bhava, definitely the cloth is not the thread itself. So there is the counter entityness of the mutual difference or bheda in the cloth. So therefore it would have been a matter of common sense. Everybody would have accepted it. It would not give rise to the idea of non-reality at all. The idea here is to prove that the cloth doesn't exist, even it definitely doesn't exist even in the place in which it is seen. That should have been the intention. That should have been the intention, to point out the non-reality of the part of the cloth in this case. However, when we say the word abhava without giving any adjectives as atyanta bhava, it would have culminated to just any common idea that definitely the cloth was not existent before, or it would have been destroyed later, or there is a difference. It doesn't culminate to the non-reality of the cloth. So therefore, if we want to really culminate to the non-reality of the cloth, we should use the word atyanta bhava and not just abhava. And this very subtle point has been expressed by Sri Vijayendra Tirtha in the Laghu-Amoda. The next section of Nyayamrita tries to collect the various definitions of non-reality or mithyatva according to the prima facie view. While collecting those views, secondly, it has been stated, if the non-reality is being termed as sattva anadhikaranatvam, that is not being a substratum for sattva or reality, there is a problem. The Nyayamrita points out it this way: napi sattva anadhikaranatvam nirdharmake brahmanyapi sattvat. If we say sattva anadhikaranatvam, not being a substratum of reality, is non-reality, it suffers over application or ativyapti even in the nirguna nirdharmaka brahman according to Advaita. The word nirdharmaka brahman is very pregnant here, because it serves as the hetugarbha visheshana. It is an adjective with the purport to prove that this is the reason to point out that there is no sattva anadhikaranatva as the true reason, as the true definition of non-reality. So if we say sattva anadhikaranatvam mithyatva is being not being a substratum for sattva or reality, it overextends to nirguna brahma, nirdharmaka brahma, because sattva is also a dharma, it's an attribute. Anything that resides in any particular substratum can be termed as dharma or attribute. Sattva is also a dharma. However, according to the school of Advaita, Brahman is nirdharmaka. Therefore, we bereft of any attributes. So, naturally, even the sattva attribute should not have been there in Brahman. So, according to the school of Advaita, therefore, sattva as an attribute doesn't reside in the Brahman, as he is nirdharmaka. Therefore, sattva anadhikaranatvam, not being a substratum for reality, is applied even to Brahman. Therefore, it suffers, the definition of non-reality suffers an overextension in the Brahman. So, this is the line of the great Nyayamrita. Vijayendra Tirtha comments on this and brings out a very salient feature here. For the wording bhava bhyavabhyam, there is one more line which points out the defect here. If it is shown that since Brahman is nirdharmaka, bereft of all attributes, even the sattva anadhikaranatva cannot overextend there, because the definition also is an attribute. Sattva anadhikaranatva as a definition is also an attribute. It cannot overextend in Brahman because Brahman is bereft of attributes. Even the definition as an attribute cannot overextend in Brahman. This is the prima facie view. But the Nyayamrita rejects this and says that this cannot be proved at all. If at all it has to be proved, the syllogism has to go in this way. The Brahman doesn't have the Sattva Anadikaranatvam. He is not the non-substratum for reality because he is bereft of attributes, Nirdharmaka. So Nirdharmakatva should have been the Hetu or reason here. But this cannot be so. Sri Vijayantirtha expounds this in this way. Nirdharmakatvam asti nava. Yadi asti tada nirdharmakatvam vi dharma eveti nirdharmakatvam vyahatam. Niyati pakshe dvau nishedau prastutamartham gamayata iti nyayena sadharmakatve sati punarapi nirdharmakatvam vyahatam. This is in page 20 and 21 of the Lagvamoda. Here Sri Vijayantirtha points out you are using the prima facie view is using the phrase nirdharmakatva or being bereft of all attributes. Even this is an attribute. Being bereft of the attribute is also an attribute. So, is this accepted in Brahman or not? If it is accepted, it gives room for one more attribute here. That is being bereft of attributes. So, it is self-contradiction. Saying that Brahman is bereft of attributes and at the same time accepting this state of being bereft of attributes as an attribute. It's a self-contradiction. Similarly, if it is said nirdharmakatva or being bereft of attributes is not existent in Brahman, it proves that there is no reason to say sattva adhikaranatva doesn't lie in Brahman. Therefore, attributes are proved in Brahman again, and it again gives rise to self-contradiction. And this self-contradiction has been very neatly pointed out by Sri Vijayantirtha while commenting on this line of Sri Vyastirtha. The next section of the Nyayamrita collects various definitions of drishyatva or being the object of cognition. The syllogism had been vimatam mitya drishyatvat. The controversial world is non-real since it's an object of knowledge or having drishyatva. What exactly is this drishyatva? There are many definitions that is being pointed out by Sri Vyastirtha here. Whether the drishyatva is gnana vishayatva or is it aswaprakashatva, and all this have been taken up. And while pointing out one popular definition that drishyatva has to be so and so, that is drig vishayatva and other things, this cannot be aswaprakashatva. Aswaprakashatva is also one of the definition that is being taken for drishyatva. Why is this being taken? Because previously swavyavahare swatireki samvidapeksha niyati drishyatvam was taken up according to Pramanamala. I will not go into the details of this definition, but however, it only points out that Brahman, whenever the connotation of Brahman takes place, not exactly connotation, but vyavahara or anything that is related to Brahman is being spoken of or being talked about, the knowledge that is required to say so is not something which is different from the nature of Brahman. So Brahman is Swaprakasha, but other things are not so. When we talk about the cloth and the pot, the knowledge of the cloth and the pot are different from the cloth and the pot, which are inert. So this is the major difference between Brahman and the other things, as pointed out by Pramanamala, as quoted in the Nyayamritam. However, this definition has been rejected, and one more definition is being taken as aswaprakashatvam va drishyatvam. But why is the Nyayamrita taking up aswaprakashatvam va drishyatvam, leaving aside the Pramanamala's definition, that is swavyavahare swatireka samvidapeksha niyati? Why is that being rejected? This is being pointed out very carefully by Sri Vijayantirtha in the Gvamoda, page number 23, in the last line. Aswaprakashatvam veti vishaya vishayi bhava svikare vrittivirodho apasiddhantaschet evaha aswaprakashatvam cha iti. The stand that aswaprakashatvam va drishyatvam is taken because in the previous definition there is a defect, and this defect is being very pregnantly shown by the Nyayamrita and is being expounded by Sri Vijayantirtha here in the Lagvamoda. In the previous definition, it has been so spoken that whenever the Brahman is being spoken of or whenever Brahman is being a matter of interaction, the knowledge that is required is not something different from Brahman. It is the very nature of Brahman. However, there is a defect here, because whenever we say the knowledge of Brahman, Brahman becomes an object of knowledge, and at the same time he himself is the nature of knowledge. This gives rise to vritti virodha. He himself cannot be the agent of knowledge and at the same time an object of knowledge. It is impossible for one and the same team to become the object as well as the subject of knowledge, because therefore Vishay Vishay Bhava Svikari Vritti Virodha. This gives rise to contradiction. Therefore, that definition has been rejected. And also Apasiddhanta, because the knowledge of Brahman is an impossibility according to the school of Advaita. There is no knowledge which has the Brahman as its object. Brahman cannot be an object of knowledge. So therefore, it cannot be said Swavyavahare Swatireka Samvedapeksha Niyati is Drishyatvam, and that doesn't exist in Brahman, who himself is the object and the subject of knowledge. That stand cannot be maintained. Therefore, Aswaprakashatvam Va Drishyatvam is the another stand that is being taken up by Nyayamrita here. So such important differences and such important points that is related to the inner dynamics of Advaita have been taken up by Lagvamoda while expounding and commenting on the Nyayamrita. The next section of Nyayamrita shows, as per the prima facie view, that there are certain Shrutis to point out the non-reality of the world. However, there is a contradiction of Pratyaksha, the perception, general perception here. To clarify this particular point, the Nyayamrita points out that the Pratyaksha cannot grasp the absolute reality of the world. Nahi vartamana grahi matra grahi pratyaksham trikalabhadyatva grahi. The perception which we have in this world only tries to grasp the reality which is time bound, the reality which is bound within the framework of the present time, and not absolute reality which is beyond the present time. This is of all the three times rather. That is not being grasped by the perception at all. The perception always grasps the present time and place. So therefore, the reality of the present time and place is being grasped by the perception and not the reality of all the three times. So the pratyaksha or the perception cannot be held as a contradiction to the Shruti according to the prima facie view. Now there will be a question on this. Actually, Vijayanath takes this question on page number 24. Nanu Yavad Vishesha Bhava Grahe Yatkinchit Vishesha Grahi Pratyaksham Bhavatyeva Virodhi Ityata Aha Drishyate Cheti Pratyakshasa Durbalatvena Natatsrutyanumana Bhadakam iti Bhava. So this naturally the question would be, when the reality in the present time and place is being grasped, how can it be said that the world is not really in all the three times? So to clarify the position of the prima facie, it is not the position of the Siddhanta, it is a clarification of the position of the prima facie. And Vijayanath very faithfully points out that the Advaita school has a stand on this. Although the perception grasps the reality in the present time, still it is not powerful enough to contradict the Shrutis. The Shrutis are all powerful. The Pratyaksha perception is not all powerful to negate even what is being said in the Shruti. And that is exactly why Drishyate cha Nabhavanailya Chandra Pradeshatvagrahi Pratyakshayoho Anumanagamaabhyam Bhada iti. And this is the line that follows. Because the perception grasps the blue color of the sky. However, the sky is not blue. And at the same time, the Pratyaksha or perception tries to grasp the smallness of the moon. However, that is not so. The moon has a wide diameter and a wide mass. Therefore, it's a contradiction of perception. Even though there is a seeming apparent contradiction of perception, the perception is not powerful enough to negate the Shrutis. Similarly, the Shruti is all powerful in pointing out non-reality of the world according to prima facie view. So this has been pointed out and explained by Sri Vijayanath here, and no point of the prima facie is compromised. That has to be noted. The prima facie view is not diluted, and then negated or refuted. The prima facie view or the Purvapaksha view is very well presented. It has been presented very powerfully, and later it has been refuted. And this shows how the faithfulness of the commentary goes, and how exactly the prima facie is presented without any dilution. After the presentation of the prima facie views, Sri Vyastirtha makes a criticism of the first definition of non-reality. According to the Panchapadika, the first definition of non-reality was not being real and not being unreal. It is something which is different from real and unreal, and that is mithya or non-real is the definition of Panchapadika. This is being refuted by taking up the first option. What do you mean by being different from real and real? Sattva, sadasattvavadikaranatvam. what exactly is the meaning? Do you mean to say it is different from that which is sadasat? Is the question. If it is said yes, the Nyayamrita points out this doesn't stand, because नाद्यः मन्मते सदेक स्वभावे जगति तस्य सिद्धत्वात्. This cannot be maintained, because according to the Dvaita school, the world is real. It's absolutely real. It is not contaminated. It is not a mixture of real and unreal. It is purely real. Therefore, if anybody claims that the world is not real and unreal together, it is quite welcome, because the world is real absolutely, and it is not real and unreal. So when somebody says it is different from real and unreal, it's a welcome note. Therefore, it gives rise to Siddha Sadhanata. That is, you are trying to prove what has been already been accepted by the Dvaita school of thought. Sri Vijay Tirtha makes an additional point here in page number 24. Upalakshanam etatu sattve satya sattva rupa vishishtasya pratiyogino aprasidhya sadhya prasiddhirityapi bodhyam. Further, there is one more fallacy in this option, that is sadhya prasiddhi. Anything that is being both real and unreal is not there at all. Either an entity has to be real or unreal. It cannot be both real and unreal. So when somebody says the world, or any example for that matter, is neither real and unreal, that is, it is not, it is being different from real and unreal, you are trying to prove that it is different from real and unreal. However, when there is no such thing as one thing such as real and unreal, how can anyone prove that it is different from real and unreal? Because to say something is absent, you have to have a knowledge of at least the counter entity. Here the counter entity is being real and unreal, but such an option is not there at all. Such an option is not established at all. So trying to prove something is different from real and unreal gives rise to proving something which is unestablished, sadhya prasiddhi. And this is one more fallacy that can be added to Nyayamritam. And this has been pointed out by Sri Vijay Tirtha in the Lagvamoda, page number 24. Dealing with the second definition of non-reality, that is Pratipannopado Traikalika Nisheda Pratiyogitvam Mityatvam, Sri Vyastirtha points out that there is one element within this definition, that is Traikalika Nishedha, that is negation at all three times. The ontological question on this by the Nyayamrita is whether this particular negation at all the three times, whether it is real or not real. So the Nyayamrita points out, if it is real, it gives rise to Advaitahani, because it would say, it would only mean that there are two realities. One is Brahman and another is negation at all three times. So negation at all three times is one reality and Brahman is another reality, and this gives rise to Advaitahani. So this cannot be accepted. Sri Vijay Tirtha makes very important polemical points on this particular aspect. In page number 26 in the Lagvamoda, Tathapi Brahmano Vyadadi Bhavarupa Prapancha Pratiyogika Traikalika Nisheda Anatiriktatve Gatadi Pratiyogika Traikalika Nishedavad Anupadabdi Pramanakatva Patena Bhavarupatva Bhava Prasangaha. This is a very important polemical, highly technical point that has been pointed out by Sri Vijay Tirtha. There is one particular defense in the school of Advaita which tries to say that the negation at all the three times is not something different from Brahman. It is the very nature of Brahman. So Brahman is one reality and negation is not a different reality, but it is of the very nature of Brahman. So then there can be no scope for Advaitahani or the contradiction to the theory of non-dualism. If it is said so, this is not so. Because Nishedha or negation, if it is treated as one with Brahman, then what is the counter entity for that negation? The counter entity for that negation is nothing but the world. The world is being negated. And the world is also held as the Bhava Padartha or positive entity. When something is accepted as a positive entity and its absence is being spoken of, naturally that only means it is a scope for Anupalabdhi Pramana, or the last means of knowledge according to Advaita, that is Anupalabdhi, which comprehends the negation. So in that case, it will only give rise to a total annihilation of the Bhava Swarupa. So because whenever something, it's positive entity and it is also a counter entity for the absolute negation, it could give rise to Anupalabdhi Pramana. when Anupalabdhi Pramana is being invoked according to the Advaita, it only gives rise to a destruction of the positive entity, because anything that is cognized through the Anupalabdhi Pramana has to be abhava. Anything that is cognized in perception is bhava. Anything that is cognized through pratyaksha is bhava. Anything that is cognized through Anupalabdhi is abhava. Therefore, when Anupalabdhi Pramana is being invoked, then naturally it has to be, even Brahman may have to be not a positive entity, but he has to be, because he has to become a negation. So therefore, the Anupalabdhi Pramana should not have been invoked here, and the Traikalika Nisheda, absolute negation, cannot be held as one with the Brahman. And this polemical, highly dialectical polemical point has been pointed out by Lagvamodha. While examining the third definition of non-reality, Sri Vyastirtha points out that this definition, that is Gnanatvena Gnana Nivartyatvam, being destroyed by knowledge, this actually doesn't apply to the pot and others which are already destroyed. The pot and others which are already destroyed are actually non-real. However, this definition doesn't come there, because they are not destroyed by knowledge, but they are destroyed by the prahara, or the swinging of the stick and others. Therefore, they are already destroyed and there is no scope for destruction from knowledge. Therefore, the definition suffers under pervasion or avyapti in the pot and others which are already destroyed. The Lagvamodha in page number 36 points out certain important aspects here. Yadyapi atita gatado na nivrittihi kintu pravilaya matramiti parabhyupakamah. According to the school of Advaita, there is no nivritti here, but it is already destroyed. However, tatapi gato nivritta iti abhadita anubhavena nivrittireva angikarya. However, we have to say that there is nivritti here, because we say the ghata, the pot and others have seen removal. Anyatha Vishamaya nivrittiriti Shrutimaya nivrittirapi vilaya rupa syaditi bhavaha. If this is not accepted, Vishamaya nivritti, the word nivritti is being used in the Shruti. Does it culminate to just destruction by other means? Not necessarily, according to Advaita. Therefore, when you take the word nivritti in the sense of sublation in the Shruti, the same word that is used even in our daily connotation as the ghata is being removed or is being nivritta, we have to take the meaning that it is also, should have been also be removed by knowledge. But however, that is not having the scope of removal by knowledge, because it is already destroyed in the prior time. Therefore, it suffers under pervasion necessarily, and this is being clarified in the Lagvamodha in page number 36. There is an important section in the Nyayamrita called as the Samanyato Mithyatva. In that particular section of the Nyayamrita, Sri Vyastirtha points out, apart from examining the definitions of the non-reality, the non-reality as a concept cannot be established at all. This has been pointed out there, because if at all the so-called non-reality is held as real, there would be two realities. One is Brahman and another is non-reality. If it is held as non-real, even the non-reality is non-real, then Advaita Shrutis which speak of that non-reality would be speaking about something which is non-real. Therefore, the Advaita Shrutis would become Atatva Vedaka, or something which speaks about not real entities. So this is the argument that is being proposed in the Nyayamrita. Advaita Shrutehe Atatva Vedakatvapatti. Advaita Shrutis should have become Atatva Vedaka. That is the argument. Advaita Shruter Atatva Vedakatvam cha syat is the pankti of the Nyayamrita. The Lagvamodha in page number 38 takes up this argument. Yadyapi Advaita Shrutehe Akanda Brahma Chaitanya Matra Paratvena na Atatva Vedakatvam. The Lagvamodha takes up this argument. How can it be said that the Advaita Shrutis become Atatva Vedaka, or propounding non-reality? Because the Advaita Shrutis are always speaking about the non-real, not about the non-reality, but about Brahman alone. It speaks only about the Brahman alone. Therefore, it doesn't speak about non-reality at all. So how can it speak about, how can the Atatva Vedakatva being pointed out to Advaita Shrutis? This has been clarified by Shri Vyastirtha as follows. Tatapi Jagan Mithyatvam Angikurvata Tat Siddhyartam Tatrapi Tat Srute Tatparyam Vachyam. However, when you say the non-reality is being established by the Shrutis, it should have been established either by the Advaita Shrutis or the non-Advaita Shrutis. It cannot be said it is established by the non-Advaita Shrutis, because that it only speaks about the reality of the world. So the Advaita Shruti should necessarily speak about non-reality, and Atatva Vedakatva appears here. Anyatha tad asiti pasangad. If not, non-reality could not have been established by the Shruti at all. Because Advaita Shrutis are twofold according to Advaita. One is Advaita Shrutis and non-Advaita Shrutis. The non-Advaita Shrutis speak about the reality of the world, while as Advaita Shrutis should necessarily speak about the non-reality of the world. And even that non-reality is non-real. Therefore, Tattva Vedakatva happens here. Tatparilinga Satve Tatra Tatparisa Durvaratvacha. Moreover, when we take and examine all the Tatparilingas, even according to Advaita, it culminates to non-reality being the purport of the Advaita Shrutis. And that non-reality is again non-real. Therefore, Atattva Vedakatva definitely happens. Therefore, the Atattva Vedakatva pointed out by Nyayamrita as Advaita Shruti Atattva Vedakatvam Chasyat has a very sound grounding here, and it cannot be rejected at all. This has been pointed out by the Lagvamoda here. So, in about 10 instances, we have seen how the Lagvamoda expounds Nyayamrita having the direct advantage of inculcation from the mouth of Sri Vyastirtha himself. So therefore, this very early commentary on the Nyayamrita serves great purpose in understanding of the great work Nyayamrita, and also tries to and also makes us understand the implications of the prima facie views and also the sound refutation of the prima facie views. So in fact, there should be a greater research on the Lagvamoda, and also on the other Madhyama Moda and Gurva Moda should be procured and published in the soon in the stipulated time period, very soon, and it should be a worthwhile effort on the part of researchers to point out that there are many pregnant points in the Amoda which are directly or indirectly counter refutation of the Advaita Siddhi. The lines of the Advaita Siddhis could be taken, and the lines of the Lagvamoda could be taken and compared how the Lagvamoda can even answer the Advaita Siddhi. Whether it is directly or indirectly is another question, but Lagvamoda can answer many of the points that has been pointed out in the Advaita Siddhi. There is one more research area that the Nyayamrita itself has already answered Advaita Siddhi pregnantly. It has anticipated Advaita Siddhi's objections and it has already been refuted. As an example, I can point out that while refuting the first definition of the non-reality, Sri Vyastirtha points out that when you say something is not real and not unreal, it's a contradiction. Because when you say something is not real, it becomes unreal. When you again say it is not unreal, it's a contradiction. This has been pointed out in the first definition of the non-reality. Non-reality's criticism. However, the Advaita Siddhi points out that the definition of unreal and real is different. Being real is being unsublated, whereas being unreal is not something which is not real, but something which is not perceived as real at all. However, this particular definition is already refuted in the Nyayamrita in the second definition, Dvitiya Mityaptabhanga. So therefore, the Nyayamrita had already anticipated many of the stands of Advaita Siddhi, and it had already refuted Advaita Siddhi very pregnantly. So therefore, these two research areas, I think, would be a very significant contribution to the Dvaita school of thought if a very deep research is being taken care to point out that the Nyayamrita had already anticipated Advaita Siddhi, and Advaita Siddhi is counter-refuted by the Lagvamoda or rather by the Amoda in detail. So I leave it to the kindred spirits to take on this mission, and I would also find it as a matter of very great enthusiasm and inspiration for myself even to take up this particular aspect and to dwell in detail in research on the Amoda and the Nyayamrita. So by these remarks, I conclude this lecture on the Lagvamoda of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha on this occasion of Sri Vijayendra Tirtha's Aradhana Mahotsava, and I thank all the organizers for this opportunity. Bhaktana Manasam Bhoja Bhanave Kamadhenave Bhajatam Kalpatarave Jayendra Gurave Namaha Vijayendra Tirtha Guruvantargata Bharatiramana Mukhya Pranantargata Shri Gopalakshna Priyata Suprito Vrado Bhavatu Shrimad Madhveshapanamastu Shri Krishnarpanamastu Shri Vyasarajo Vijayate.